Hello, welcome to Out of Spec Reviews. Today we are doing a comparison of the 2021 Mercedes E450 luxury car versus the Ford F-150 hybrid limited luxury truck. Which should we buy, a luxury car or a luxury truck? Let me explain where this came from. This Mercedes E450 is the new inline six mild hybrid. Makes about 400 horsepower. The car costs makes no difference, $80,000. This is the 2021 Ford F-150 hybrid limited. Makes about 400 horsepower, costs about $80,000. My editor Liam over here for Out of Spec Studios seems to think that the F-150 can do everything the Mercedes can do and more. I fully disagree with you.
Plenty of reasons why I think it's better. In terms of luxury, everything, come on, I'll show you the 10-way adjustable seats, both heated and cooled, might I add. Walk up to the car with the key in your pocket, it'll automatically unlock. Tons of beautiful leather all throughout, faux carbon fiber trim. Why wouldn't you want to pay $80,000 for a luxury truck? You can tow. Come around to the back real quick. Standard 5-foot box on this one. Right here, you have the option to electronically let down the tailgate. Tons of tech throughout on this thing. So easy to find, plenty of options. I think we can change Kyle's mind by the end of this, no doubt.
I have selected the new E-Class as my luxury car of choice because take a look, redesigned, especially here on the back. You know, the previous E-Class had those taillights that came out this way. All new design for the rear. I think it looks amazing. I spent about almost a month with the last generation E-Class shredding around Europe, and I fell in love with that car. Cruising at 155 miles an hour up and down Autobahns all day long. This thing is insanely comfortable, insanely capable, and people don't give the E-Class enough credit. This is the best-selling Mercedes model in the entire history of Mercedes-Benz. There have been more E-Classes sold than anything else. It was introduced in 1946. We're currently on our 10th generation, so I think Mercedes knows a thing or two about building a capable luxury vehicle, and I truly believe this is the better choice than the F-150. So to settle this battle, Liam and I are going to run through our 10-point scoring system. Essentially, we have 10 categories that we're going to be scoring each vehicle on. The vehicle can get a maximum of 10 points in each category, and we'll see who wins at the end.
Kyle claims the new redesigned E-Class for 2021 is the better luxury vehicle, and I will give him credit that it is a good looking car. The redesigned front end has a new grille, it looks amazing. Headlights of Mercedes' new design language are awesome, almost somewhat reminiscent of the AMG GT, but there are a few things I want to point out that don't sit with me quite as well. Come on. For an $80,000 car, these wheels are just not flashy enough. Kyle's talking about pulling up to the club in Miami. You're gonna look like standard traffic with wheels like this. Now, granted, they are the winter option. I don't know, I want a little bit more bling for 80 grand, especially from a German firm such as Mercedes. Come around to the back with me here. They have redesigned the, frankly, awful rear end from the previous generation E-Class. And while it does look better, it flows a little bit, I still think if you didn't have glasses on, you could mistake this for an old Honda Accord. Not my favorite bit of it, but overall, it's a good looking car. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10.
We're starting off with styling, and I'm already off. You know, I think the E-Class is a better luxury vehicle, and I've been tasked to basically score Liam's limited F-150 here. And honestly, I hate to say this, but can you get a better looking pickup truck? Come with me, look at these things. You get these gorgeous wheels, everything is tasteful, it's not too aggressive, it's not too posh, you could still use it as a truck. I gotta say, it's really nice. Now, there are a few exceptions to this. I still think that you get some of the pickup truck giant weird things. These running boards are just super awful looking when they're extended. And, you know, it's not that premium. I mean, certainly if you live in like Dallas or Austin, you could roll up to, you know, a really nice dinner in this thing. But if you're in downtown Miami going out to a nice club, you don't want to be rolling up in an F-150. You want to be rolling up in an E-Class. So I give this a styling score of 7 out of 10, which is actually really good for a pickup truck.
Definitely a little bit smug that we won in the styling department with a truck over a brand new Mercedes. That feels great. So let's talk about performance. Now, I know that V8s are synonymous with big American trucks, but this is the future. And this is equipped with a 3.5 liter PowerBoost V6 from Ford. It's a twin turbo unit. Collectively, with the hybrid motor that adds another 200 foot-pounds of torque, it makes almost 400 horsepower. Now, I know those numbers by today's standards are not crazy for a truck. However, when coupled with the 10-speed transmission optional on this, it's a torque converted automatic, it absolutely boogies. It's always able to be in its power band. Passing is no problem. And talking about performance, you could tow your race car to the track with this all day in comfort. I think that's something Kyle may struggle with a little bit. In the Mercedes, dynamically, it is not obviously a P car or anything, or a Mercedes for that matter, in the corners, but that's okay, right? It's a truck. It's not trying to be a race car.
Bummer that the F-150 won in the styling department, but although I'm down on power with 362 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque, my car is considerably lighter. And also, this engine has a little trick up its sleeve. It has something called EQ Boost, and what that is a little pancake electric motor on the backside of the engine that will supplement when the turbos aren't spooled. This engine makes full torque at 1600 RPM. It's so comfortable because you don't have to rev it out everywhere. However, at 1600 RPM, the turbos do take a second or two to spool. So to supplement that time, what it does is it outputs an electric boost to cover that gap before the turbos spool up, and it's really neat. It almost gives you the same feeling of driving an electric car with torque instantly whenever you want it. That EQ boost does a couple things as well. It increases the amount of time that the engine can stay off, so when we get to efficiency, I bet this car will be more efficient than the F-150. But in terms of performance, what else do we have here? We're much lower to the ground. We have a great chassis that I think Liam's going to be very impressed with when he drives the car. This one has ABC. It's Mercedes air suspension with active body control. Essentially, when you throw it into a corner, it bumps up the outside of the car so it stays flat in the corners. And even though this car is on Soto Zero winter tires, it actually shreds pretty hard. I would go as so far to say that this is more dynamic than its competitors, the BMW 540i and the Audi A6, and certainly the competitor in this category, the giant behemoth of the F-150 that's not going around any corners well.
Overall, I'm very impressed with the performance of the Mercedes-Benz E450. Kyle, I gotta give it to you there. It's much better than my Ford F-150. Overall, for performance, I am going to give it a 6 out of 10. For what it does it very well. And it does impress in the corners, etc. But you'd never buy it just because of its performance. It's kind of the cherry on top, so to speak, with this car. So that's why I score it 6 out of 10.
Performance. You know, Liam says this thing's pretty quick. It's a freaking pickup truck, so I'm gonna twist it over into sport mode. And you know, we have the twin turbocharged 3.5 liter EcoBoost with the electric motor on the back. And what we have to do is just accelerate. So, foot down hard. Here we go. Foot down. Holy smokes. Wow. Okay, you have to keep in mind we're at just about a mile above sea level here, so the turbos help compensate for that. The electric motor provides about 47 horsepower of extra boost there, and holy smokes, does this thing freaking rip. You know, it's no handler. I'm not taking this up and down the canyons for sure. It's still a truck. But in terms of acceleration for around town or just sort of like nippy handling, I gotta give it to him. I might be convinced that this handles really well. Now, it's certainly not better than the E-Class, right? That thing's a small, sporty sedan, and actually sportier than I would have expected from a Mercedes. However, this pickup truck, this F-150, shreds. I mean, you just put your foot into it a little bit and boom, all that torque comes on, 570 pound-feet of torque. It's pretty intoxicating, actually, gotta say. Not bad in the performance category. Not bad at all. Overall, I give it a 6 out of 10, but for a truck, again, it's pushing 7, 8 out of 10. I don't know what more you would need in terms of acceleration. It is lacking in the braking and cornering department, of course. It's just not a sports car. Our next category is practicality and capability, and he's gonna try and drive up on this mound in the Ford. I can already feel it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raise the Mercedes up and show him I can flex this thing out too. Certainly, this is not an off-roading machine, but it says it's raising, and here we go, and watch this. We're gonna let's just get it up over here on the side, I think, and we'll drive it up. Hell yeah, lifting a wheel in the Mercedes. I can do truck stuff too. And straighter, turn left. Yep, go up. And a little more.
Now we have gotten to a category that I'm really looking forward to, practicality and capabilities. I'm gonna start with my F-150 here at the front. While Kyle's Mercedes has tow hooks, the F-150 has 2 recovery points at the front should you get stuck out on an off-road adventure or anything like that. Easy to get you out. Now here's where the F-150 really shines. Let's step inside. Tons of storage. Even if you look at the door card right here, plenty of places to put all of your things from keys, maps, stuff you may have for work, etc., as this truck is often used for. Another very interesting thing that the F-150 has, this was an option on ours, is the workspace right here. You click this button, it actually folds this down. We've already done that. Pull that up and you have a awesome little writing area, perfect for people who are going to use this as a work truck. That's what it's used for. Cup holders are plentiful throughout. You have 2, 4, 6, 8 just in the front between the 2 doors. So in addition to the 6 cup holders up front, you have 2 in here and then 2 more on the door, putting the total at 12. Now that is the least of the capabilities of the rear. Check this out. Plenty of space. You can easily seat 4 full-size adults in this vehicle, not a problem. More storage space. Seats come up very, very easily. Lift this up. You have a nice little compartment. If you're a hunter, you could store guns in there or supplies. Just about anything you would like. All right, now let's go to the back real quick. So our F-150 has the 5-foot box, not quite big enough to carry around sheetrock and particle board, etc., but still plenty of room to haul stuff to the job site, Milwaukee Tools, whatever. It's awesome. And if you come back here, I'm not sure Kyle's seen one of these before, but this is a receiver for towing. Plenty of towing capacity. There's not a whole lot of things you could not haul around in this, especially for your average worker. Another interesting thing, capability-wise, there's actually a ruler set on the back here for measuring anything from work supplies to maybe a big fish that you just landed if you were out doing some sportsman stuff, which is really, really cool. And that actually measures in centimeters and inches. Cool feature. Other practicality stuff, come back here. There are lots of options for power stuff. You have a 220 plug. You have multiple 120 plugs right there, and then you actually have 4 in total. So you could actually run a welder off of this, no problem. There's not a whole lot you can't do. This is an extremely capable truck. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10.
You know, when we test practicality and capability, some of this includes off-road ability, and the Mercedes is able to raise and lower. Now, certainly the F-150 still has more ground clearance, but check this out. The Mercedes is right up there flexing with the F-150. So, Liam, why don't you tell us how capable your truck is and why it's more capable than my Mercedes that's still able to do some flexy stuff?
Some flexy stuff. Well, obviously, the truck has a lot more ground clearance as it is a truck, right? Other options that make the F-150 more suited for off-road duty are very active. Well, one, it's a true 4x4 system. You can drive around in 2-wheel drive in town for better gas mileage, etc. And then when you get to the business, hit it 4 low, hit it 4 high, it'll rip right through it. Now another little option right here. Let me show you this magical little button that the Ford has. Come inside. If you look right here, you will see we have a rear locker. Optional on this vehicle. However, that can get you through some really, really tricky situations that the Mercedes isn't even gonna know what to do. So, sure, Kyle's got a little bit of flex, and that's cool. We love that. Being able to pull a tire in a Mercedes is pretty cool. But for overall off-road capability, you are going to find the Ford will take you further and much easier than its Mercedes competitor.
Bunch of BS. Everyone knows you don't tow anywhere with anything anyway. Take a look at this. I'm flexing an E-Class. How more practical does this get? I can raise it up for any type of daily driving scenario. This has more than enough ground clearance. Look at trunk space. So power trunk on both the tailgate and the trunk are open, but look how deep this is. You could do your airport runs, go with your business meeting briefcases. It's got plenty of stuff. Hey, by the way, even a little bit of underfloor storage as well for a laptop if you want to hide it. So in terms of rear trunk space, certainly it's not as practical as maybe his F-150 in terms of cargo capacity, but guess what? No one's going to be stealing things out of my trunk. I can just reach into the back of his pickup truck and take things away. Also, in terms of practicality, have you seen the ground clearance? Do I need to say one more time? How much more do you need than this right here? I'm flexing an E-Class. Although, to be realistic, I do have to give this a 5 out of 10 for practicality. It is not an off-road vehicle. You can only put 5 people in there, no 7 passengers, not a ton of storage. Fine for a sedan, but sedans just never score that highly in our practicality tests, so unfortunately it cannot match the 9 of the F-150.
I'll give Kyle $100 if he can flip this E-Class with his own body weight right now.
Nope, but it is lifted. Now we get to the area of comfort, and by far, I believe this is where the Mercedes totally, truly excels. Now, the F-150 does have massaging seats, but it's kind of like the American way of having massaging seats. It blows up air bladders here or there. This has true massaging seats. Take a look over here. I'm going to go over to the comfort tab, and inside of the comfort tab, I can choose a hot massage for my back or shoulder. Look at all the different options I can have. The F-150 has options too. This just has better ones. And so I think this is certainly the way to go. I'm going to go for a hot, relaxing shoulder massage right now. I also have one of the best seats in the industry. You know, in terms of comfort, what you want to have is not much in your way of getting in and out of the car. So ingress and egress is unbelievably comfortable. I also have backrest, or I should say side seat adjustments that when I go around a corner, they bolster up so I don't end up flopping around. I don't need to hold myself up around the corners. And while that's certainly nice in a performance setting in terms of comfort if I'm going around a corner in town, oh, it's just the best. I also have different driving modes. Take a look down here. I can choose between, Sport Plus all the way down to Comfort, of course. And in Comfort mode, this car has something called active body control as well as Mercedes air suspension. So it will soak up the bumps unbelievably well. You almost don't feel any road undulations, but if you put it in Sport Plus, it's still pretty good, as we found out in the performance category. So it's amazing the split personality this car has. It's almost as comfortable as a new S-Class. It's probably more comfortable than the previous generation S-Class, I'd say. I'm getting a hot stone massage. It's got tons of tech. We'll get to that in a bit. But I don't know if you could have a more comfortable around town car than this. It does everything for you, and the technology is a bit of a comfort as well because it doesn't require any thought. This is truly a 9 out of 10 in the comfort category.
As you can see, I'm now in the Mercedes. Kyle and I switched, and since he's not here, I'll tell you this, it's phenomenal. It's actually a great car. Starting with comfort around town, it is sublime. It absorbs most road imperfections, no problem. You can't even tell it's there. One interesting thing that I like about it comfort-wise, this is kind of a cool little feature, is when you corner, the seats actually have adaptive bolsters that will hold you in place depending on where you're turning. So I'm about to do a slight little left-hand turn here. My right bolster inflates and makes sure I stay in place. Really, really cool tech. This is awesome stuff. Other things that make the Mercedes phenomenal to drive around town in are heated stone massage seats. These work phenomenally. My F-150 does have massaging seats as well. The Mercedes seats are leaps and bounds ahead of the offerings from the Ford unit. Strong points for the Mercedes there. Seats are also heated and cooled. Beautiful leather throughout. Seating position is no problem. They have plenty of support. The headrests are phenomenal. They are so comfortable. This would be an amazing car to either eat highway miles or just put around town and do your own thing. It's great. Other features for comfort on the E450 that score very highly are the dual climate zone systems work flawlessly. The infotainment system is easy to use. The dash is easy. It's a very low stress car to drive. We are in my Ford F-150 Limited, and I must say it is an absolutely lovely place to be. 10-way adjustable seats, front, both driver and passenger have the option to massage, which is great. Heated and cooled, easily controlled by the buttons down here. You have a plethora of options to go through there. It's great. Also, plenty of rear seating space as well, and on the Limited, the rear seats are both heated as well. Other options in terms of comfort: dual climate control, standard, awesome. It works really, really, really well. It's great. Around town, road manners are pretty good, all considered. It does still ride like a truck. It is a truck. You get a little bit jarred over big bumps, and you can kind of feel the chassis flex, which is normal for a truck. However, because of all that, gonna have to give it a 6 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it's good for a truck. Kyle might take this category.
So Liam thinks that his truck's pretty comfortable, but at the end of the day, it's still a truck, right? Watch what happens when I hit this speed bump. It rides, yep, the front hits it, and then the back hits it. It's not smooth and supple like my Mercedes is, so I don't know what he's saying that this thing is smooth and comfortable. Certainly it has massaging seats, yes, but they're not nearly as good as the Mercedes. The Mercedes actually has little balls that heat up and dig into your back. This is just air chambers that fold up and down. And while it is nice, it's certainly no Mercedes massaging seat. Also, I gotta say though, aside from those two things, it's really nice in here. The leather quality, I have to admit, is better than the Mercedes leather quality. The Mercedes has sort of a grainier leather. This is a very fine grained, smooth leather. I much prefer this. The downside here though, in terms of like comfort or luxury, is, you know, all the switchgear is typical Ford, so everything typical Mercedes is just a step up in terms of feel and fit and finish. But I gotta say, for an F-150 for a Ford, I'm impressed that it's even this nice, and like all of this aluminum around here is actually just plastic. Yeah, it's a good, solid, let's just say, for a truck, it's a 9 out of 10, but for our rating system, it's a probably a 7 out of 10. It's unbelievably luxurious in here for a pickup truck, and of course it's gonna ride like a truck. It's a truck. Next up, efficiency, and this is going to get a little complicated, so bear with me because I'm going to explain how hybrid systems work. You see, both of these cars are hybrids, but they are all different types. We're going to start at the bottom. You have basically a combustion engine. You all know how that works. You have a big engine up front that powers the car using dinosaur juice. This Mercedes is a mild hybrid, so it still has the dinosaur juice burning combustion engine. New for this year, of course, is the inline 6 that should be pretty efficient. Also has an air conditioning compressor that is now running off of electricity instead of off of a serpentine belt. That's pretty neat. It should take some strain off the engine as well. And it is a mild hybrid. So what is that? It means it has a little tiny 200 watt hour battery pack, like 2 laptop batteries sitting in this car, that basically allow it to extend the time that the engine is off. So as you're coasting up to a red light, the car will shut the engine off at around 8 miles per hour, and it will just allow it to coast in. Also, every time you slow down, it charges up that 200 watt hour battery to be used later on. Now, you can also use the mild hybrid system for boost. I was talking about earlier in the performance how when the turbos aren't spooled yet, it will increase the torque to the wheels to supplement for the turbos spooling up. It's a really neat system. I actually like it a lot, but you cannot do any electric driving with a mild hybrid. And that brings me to the F-150, because the F-150 is a full normal hybrid, series hybrid. And what this is you have your internal combustion engine, of course, paired with a really strong electric motor, again, over 200 pound-feet of torque, with an over 1 kilowatt-hour battery pack. So now we're starting to get into like 10 laptop batteries, for example. And this means that this truck can also do the same thing in the Mercedes, extend the time that it runs, stop, for example, with the engine off. It can run heat and air conditioning from the high voltage system. It also allows you to drive at low speeds in parking lot scenarios and even just cruising around the city in electric mode alone. So I've gone through the Starbucks drive-thru, McDonald's, Burger King, you name it. You can go through those drive-thrus all electric. So that is the benefit of a hybrid, just more battery. Still though, the downside is you're charging the hybrid system using regenerative braking, which is great, but also in some cases from the combustion engine, which isn't ideal and it isn't totally efficient. So that brings us to the next step in hybrids, which is a plug-in hybrid. Now none of these vehicles are plug-in hybrids, but a plug-in hybrid allows an external power source, such as your wall box at home, to charge up the battery in the vehicle. And typically you can drive all the way up to highway speeds with plug-in hybrids, and these will have anywhere from 10 to 30 kilowatt-hour battery packs depending on the car and model. And so that's kind of interesting. Of course, after that you get a full battery electric vehicle, which we're huge fans of on this channel. But it's an interesting point to bring up that both of these cars are electrified. It's really showing that mainstream is moving to electric applications. Which did it better though, and which is more efficient? The Mercedes with less of an electrical system, or the Ford pickup with more of an electrical system? Now, we haven't yet run the Mercedes through our MPG testing, or the Ford we've done, it did 24 MPG. I'll put the results here and I'll put the scores above them here. This is purely an objective category based off of highway fuel efficiency, but it is important to note that both are fairly efficient around town, and they also allow extended periods of time of idling without the engine physically running. Pretty neat. Now we get to technology, and I've done both an in-depth tech review on both of these cars. So you'll have to go back to our previous videos to see, because they're both 15-20 minute videos alone on the technology of each of the cars. But the F-150 scores an 8 out of 10, truly an impressive technological piece, but the E-Class scores a 9. And what really threw it over was that augmented reality nav. I know it is making its way into more cars, but it's just so neat to see everything this E-Class can do. Mercedes has always been the leaders in technology, and this is no exception. The only thing that's better than this, perhaps, is their S-Class. So very neat. And now we move on to the next category, active safety. So I'm going to go through this one too alone, because this is sort of part of our tech reviews. We always talk about active safety. F-150 scored a 7 out of 10, hits all the points: rear cross traffic alert, forward collision warning with pedestrian, has active steering with co-pilot 360. Right now it's not scoring higher than a 7 because you have to keep your hands on the wheel for the driver assistance systems. But once this truck receives an over-the-air software update to enable co-pilot 360 hands-free, I'm sure that 7 will be bumped to an 8 or an 8.5. Really, truly impressive active safety in this truck. It will do as much as it can to keep you out of an accident. The Mercedes, much the same, scores a 7. Really good system. You still have to keep your hands on the wheel. It has forward collision warning, rear cross traffic, even helps you with lane changes, but no eye tracking, no other sort of driver monitoring system. So both are tied in the active safety department. Both are really hard to crash into things and really technologically amazing vehicles.
Our next category is connected services, and the Ford actually scores very well with that. So one thing that the Mercedes actually cannot do that the Ford can is receive over-the-air updates. That is for just about every module on the truck, can be upgraded simply by owning it. It will do it on its own. You have the option to turn it off, but why would you? Make it constantly better. So another thing that the truck has that's great is the Ford Pass system. Now, this lets you go in on your smartphone and turn the truck on. You can set climate control to whatever hot, temp, cold you want. Doesn't matter. You can do heated seats and control of a lot of the other stuff through the app as well. This isn't quite Tesla level stuff, which is currently the gold standard, but Ford is doing a very good job of trying to catch up to that, and it works great.
Oh, come on, that's so silly. Why do you need software updates if you make the car right the first time, right? I mean, what's the point? This thing is great out of the box. Certainly you can do some updates to the UI over the air, but the Germans just spend so much time testing and making things perfect that there's no need to mess it up with updates. However, I also have a connected app. It's called Mercedes Me. I can do the same thing, preconditioning, check on the status of my car, schedule service, see the location. So I score the Mercedes E-Class a 6 out of 10, and that's only because there's no recurring software updates that are coming. However, I can connect to it with my app and precondition it, do all the cool stuff. So Ford definitely wins. Would like to see some more from Mercedes in this department. Last category of our test, and arguably my favorite, is the editor's influence. And for this, we're going to be sharing our own personal impressions of each of our cars and scoring them out of 10. Now, the value of each car certainly isn't quite there, but this is where some of the things that I, as an automotive journalist, can appreciate, I can now add back into the score. So the Mercedes, I absolutely love the details on the whole car. Absolutely gorgeous grille. I love the headlight technology. I love all the over-engineering that went into this. That inline six is truly impressively smooth. Objectively, this car may not be on paper, you know, better than a Nissan Altima that can get you from A to B in the same amount of time, but the intangibles, the bank vault feeling, the way that it rides over the bumps, and also the way that it's extremely dynamic in the corners, it's sort of a truly impressive car. My editor's influence is an additional 9 out of 10 points. I like this car that much. Very rarely do I give a car that high of a score from my own personal influence.
Classic Kyle. With the Ford, there are definitely some things that I do really enjoy about it. So this is just one of 14 different grills that you can have for these cars. There's so much that you can do with them. It's kind of unique in that if you want to tow, go on the highway, do all of that stuff, you don't have to buy a diesel to get great power numbers and drive it around town. I really appreciate that. However, it's still kind of fun to drive. It looks good compared to most of its rivals. I think that this actually is a good car to look at. I don't want to pour bleach on my eyes after walking out to the garage and seeing it. It's great. It's still somewhat fun to drive despite being a truck. My editor's influence score for this, 6.5 out of 10.